Incremental greetings. That's the second video about the 2 years milestone of SuperMemo, and in this case, I want to share with you my stats. First, my stats are all how they are now and the comparison 6 months ago. If something has decreased, increased, and if it's relevant or it's worthless to take that into account. So look at that. 2 years. Memorized, I have memorized now 39,000 items. Is that a lot? Could be in 2 years. But keep in mind, here I have the English collection. Not all, I have deleted branches of the English collection, but a great deal comes from the English collection. Take that into account. And related to this, memorized by day. 80,000, how is that possible? Well, that's because there's pre-made content. Easy. That was about 100, I think, last time. And it just every day it's declining a little because of it's averaging. The more time passes, the more close to the genuine average would be. The element count it's 163,000. I had up to 500,000. Even though I have deleted a lot of stuff, there's a lot of material pending to be read. So a lot of my collection is something that I just imported and that's it, and it's waiting. Outstanding, since now I have deleted a lot of stuff, including items, usually pre-done items from English. Now I can finish my outstanding queue. Not every day, but well, most of the time I finish my outstanding for items, not for topics. And now I have 26,000. Is that a lot? Let's compare. I have 102,000 topics, out of which 23,000 are outstanding. So overall, I could say that a quarter of my topics are outstanding. And keep in mind that the average, what it is, the average interval for my topics is almost a year. By 3 days, it's not an entire year. It's quite high. And even though, in just 2 years. Next, protein protection, obviously, it's 100% for items because I finished the outstanding. And for topics, it's very low. Because today, I haven't done any topic repetitions yet. And I think I will not because I have actually some tutoring sessions to do, some other work to do, and it's already almost, yeah, it's more than 5 p.m. So I will be free, available at 1 a.m. So it will be kind of hard. Next, retention 97%. Good. Some weeks or months ago, I had 96. I was always 97 point very little, and then I was dropping at 96 point a lot, 90 something. So I was mostly because again the English items, the pre-done, some of the pre-done material was super easy, and those have more effects that you will see later on. And so the forgetting index is super low, less than 6%. Look at today, not even 1%. The total time. So in 2 years, I have spent 4 days and 2 hours, or 96, about 100 hours, a little less than 100 hours. In 2 years, keep in mind this is just repetition time, not usage time. Is that a lot? Well, if I compare this with Anki, that's very little. Keep in mind in Anki, I was doing more than an hour a day, so that will be more than 300 hours a year. So here I will have clock more than 700 hours, and here there's not even 100. So most of this time difference is because of the repetition count, most of it. Lapses, very little, you will see this elsewhere. The speed, it's decreasing. Every time it's slower, which is what it should be, as expected. It's still very high, more than 3,000, again, because of the English items. It's always because of the same thing. If I could do a subset of just my incremental reading, or my incremental reading and imports branches, those values will be much different. Rep count 160,000. Again, very little. I was doing a lot more every year in Anki, more than 300,000. So more than fourfold is a significant difference in the repetition count. The edge forgetting index, it's more than 10. That's because I have some branches that I have set a higher forgetting index. That's pretty much it. And the A factor now it's kind of high. Keep in mind, the A factor is capped. It's limited by SuperMemo. I think it's 6.9, I think. And now it's almost 5.6. So it is increasing every time, even though my optimum interval stays the same because it is capped and has been 33 days for, not forever, but for longer than a year. I could not recall how long. Something I realized a lot of time, what I was doing is I'm accumulating outstanding items for English. Then I do a review, a subset review, and I just use press space to move to the next one, right? So what happened? That I have flattened this graph because from the 160,000 repetitions, a lot of them are from the English branch. And a lot of the English repetitions, if I didn't lapse them, they will have a 3. So now it's almost regardless of what the expected forgetting index is, their grade is close to 3. If you see this in yellow, yeah, there's a kind of a timid tendency to go lower with a higher forgetting index, which makes sense, but it's super flat because I know that when I rate 3, 4, or 5, it doesn't weight that much on the algorithm, so I just press space. And because the English collection is not that high priority, because for me the entire English collection, that here it's a branch, it's redundant itself. I still do my own items. What happens is that item wise, it represents two-thirds of my items overall. That's why it's affecting the stats so dramatically. First interval, and here you go. The A factor versus grade. Okay, distributions. So from the items, most of my items have 3 reps, more than 20,000. 18 have 2. And look at that. Not many items have more than 4 or 5. Look at that. 2,000. Keep in mind I have almost 60,000 items memorized. And just 2,000 out of 60 have 5 repetitions or more. If I would be using Anki, let's suppose the default values, default settings. It will be a day, then let's say 4 days by 2.5 every time, right? 10 days, then that will be let's put a month, and then 3 months. I already did 5. So keep in mind my average interval it's a year for all those items. The average it's a year. That with those repetitions, it's enough to send the interval in a multiple year interval already, multiple in the hundreds, more than a year. And in Anki, this repetition threshold to 5, assuming no lapses, I will be still in a 3 months interval, and here I am on the multiple years. Not here, but on 4, and even most of the third repetition. That is huge. And look at the lapses. Yeah, I lapsed at about 2,500. I think SuperMemo documentation says that you should have less than 10% of your collection with 3 or 4 lapses. If we only take into account one lapse, the minimum basically, it's 2,500 out of 55,000. Not a big deal. And if I take 3 or 4, which this could be a threshold of semi lits, I cannot even plot there. It's negligent. Yes, it's not zero. There's a line here. It's absolutely negligent. So I don't have to worry about leeches. So overall, there are more stats, but they are not that meaningful. So to take away message is that when you use incremental reading, it makes more sense because it's more meaningful in the sense that it's more semantic. So just how you learn, how you do the method affects dramatically on the performance of retention. That's why I can have so much items memorized with so little repetitions and with a retention that high. I'm not a superhuman. I'm just using the algorithm, how I'm using SuperMemo, how it is meant to be used, which I think they guarantee 95%. That's what I'm doing. Anyone healthy could achieve the same thing, more or less. Also, that depends on how what are you learning. If now I'm immersed in some hard topic, computing, I don't know, quantum physics, something like that, I will drop my performance because a lot of what I'm learning is very hard for me, right? But long story short, for learning, what will happen is that you will focus on certain areas of knowledge that are very high entropy for you. And you will have a ton of miscellaneous concepts that you only want the surface. You don't care about the specifics. But you care something about, oh, I want to remember this about linguistics, and this other thing, oh, and this other thing, bam, 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 bam. So you can do interleaving. There's a lot of things. You decide what to remember, and it sticks so well when you use incremental reading constantly, almost every single day. It's a superpower. Ah, yeah, sorry, and the comparison. So actually, I wanted to do this blind. I didn't want to have what values I had before. Oh, and I get ads on my own video. Yeah, look at template registry. Super simplified. I no longer use tasks in SuperMemo. I do it in Notion, but not in SuperMemo. Look at the video count. I had 50 something, now I have 14. So I need more than half a year. I still haven't processed all the brands left. Oh wow, so consistent. So I did 160,000. Let me double check. Yeah, 160,000. Huh. So the second year, I did roughly 100,000 reps. And the first, oh no, sorry, that's a year and a half. Well, a year and 5 months. Oh wow. Oh wow. You can tell that I was using subset. Let me actually check that. So in 6 months, I did 100,000 reps in 6 months. Wow. So in the last 6 months, I did more reps than the other 18 months. Keep in mind, this is extremely biased because of that 100,000 reps. Overwhelmingly, the majority of this it's English. It's not incremental reading per se. Nice. That's why I wanted to not have the be knowledgeable of the stats. Yeah, look at that. 900, 100 and something items a day because I said memorize in bulk because I imported the English collection again. Oh, look, the element count. It was even higher. That was before I was importing in bulk. Nice. Look at the items. 54,000 to 62,000 in half a year. It's not that much. And look at the topics. 20 something thousand less. Wow. The measure forgetting index, it's slightly higher from 5.14 to 0.77. Wow. The average workload was just half minutes and 16 seconds. Now it's 8 minutes. Look at the total time. Look at the total time. Not even 2 years. I mean, 2 days. So that also means that in the last 6 months, I had done more repetition time than the first 18 months. All of the speed. 7,000. Wow, and now it's half. The speed in items per year per minute, which is a metric that I don't fully understand yet, it's half. Wow, and it will keep decreasing. And the lapses was 0.05, and now it's so almost double, but it's still little, nothing to worry about. So I think there's nothing else to mention that it's relevant. It could be relevant for you. Keep also in mind that most of the stats are just descriptive. So it's, oh wow, now I have a lower retention. It's because I have improved my memory? Not necessarily. Because now, for instance, I no longer have Chinese in my collection. I'm not adding anything new in Chinese for now. I will do it when I am intermediate level and I can do incremental reading in Chinese. This takes an effect because the Chinese I was lapsing the Chinese items more often. So don't take this just as the only factor that, oh wow, that's an excellent, right? Depends a lot of what you memorize, what you want to remember. So let me know. Oh yeah, the A factor. Let me see the A factor of this collection. 4.60. Oh yeah, look at that. 4.68, 5.55. So the A factor for items is increasing. It's getting larger and larger, which makes sense because I will have repped items again. So let's say that an item from this collection has a huge A factor. I do an next rep, a fourth or third rep, and I succeed. That rep, it will still be increased. And actually, if I look at my A factor, look at the peak. Let me just filter items. Now, most of the elements, which I'm filtering items, so most of the items, 19,000, has a 6.3. So actually, this average is misleading because 5.5, you will see that it's not that high. So I have two peaks at 3.6 and 6.3. Oh, wow. It's the same thing in reverse order. And it happens that it leads to an average in between, but the average is not representative of all the data plots, right? So the question is, what are those elements, items in this case, 3.6, those 10,000, and what are those? Why I'm picking those two values? That's for another video, and I'm not 100% sure. I have my hypothesis. What about difficulties? Yeah, that's normal, two picks as well. Nice, nice, nice. So feel free to ask me anything if I haven't covered, because there are so many plots in SuperMemo that I could go through. Nothing else to add today, and see you next time.